It was a cold, windy night when I was startled awake by a loud, persistent knocking at my front door. I glanced over at my alarm clock. It was a few minutes past midnight. Who could possibly be knocking at this hour? I waited a moment, thinking maybe I was just hearing things, but there it was again. 3 loud knocks that seemed to rattle the whole door on its hinges. My heart began to race. I lived alone in this small house nestled deep in the woods, the closest neighbor being over a mile away. I never had unexpected visitors, especially not at midnight. I slowly crept out of bed, threw on my robe, and peeked out the window next to the front door. The porch light cast a dim glow on the surrounding area, but I couldn't see anyone. However, the bright moonlight illuminated the woods off in the distance. As I peered out into the dark woods, I saw the trees swaying violently. The wind was howling loudly, yet right near my house, the wind was still. Something didn't feel right about this. 3 more loud knocks rang out, and I jumped back from the window in fright. Someone, or something, was outside my front door, but who or what could it be? I hesitated to open the door, but the knocking became more persistent. Thump, thump, thump. I took a few steps back. Every ounce of my being wanted to run and hide, but instead, I built up the courage to slowly unlock the front door. Taking a deep breath, I opened it just a crack to peer outside. No one was there. I opened the door wider and stuck just my head out. "Haha, hello?" I called out timidly. No answer. There was nothing but the wind whipping through the trees in the distance. Relieved, I chuckled to myself. It must have just been a tree branch blowing in the wind. As I began to close the door, a large, dark figure appeared suddenly before me. I screamed in terror as the dark mass forced its way through the doorway, knocking me backwards. It all happened so fast. In just mere seconds, this unknown entity had entered my home, uninvited. I was sprawled on the living room floor, shaking in horror. The dark figure towered in my foyer, a black shadow in the already dark house. Fear gripped every fiber of my being. "What do you want from me?" I screamed. The only response was what sounded like a low growl as the figure moved towards me. I jumped up and ran to the kitchen in panic, frantically looking for anything I could use to defend myself. My hands landed on a large knife. Without thinking, I spun around and thrust the blade towards the intruder who had followed me into the kitchen. But to my shock, the knife went right through the figure, as if it were made of nothing but black smoke. Terrified, confused, and desperate, I swung at it again and again with no effect. The menacing shadow cornered me, trapping me against the kitchen counter. I closed my eyes and braced for the worst, but after a few moments, nothing happened. The attacking presence seemed to have vanished. Hesitantly, I opened my eyes and looked around. I was alone in my dimly lit kitchen. Had I imagined the whole thing? My hands were still trembling from sheer terror. I turned on every light in the house and searched it from top to bottom. Nothing was amiss. All the doors and windows were still securely closed and locked. I tried to calm my rattled nerves. It must have been a vivid nightmare, but it had felt so horrifyingly real. Exhausted, I retreated back to bed and somehow managed to fall into a fitful sleep. The next evening after work, I arrived home and walked up to my porch. Scratched across my front door in jagged letters were the words, "Let me in." My blood turned to ice in my veins. It hadn't been a dream after all. Something sinister had come knocking at my door last night, and it wanted inside. I never felt safe in that house again. The midnight knocker continued to arrive every night in the darkest hours. My doors and windows stayed boarded up at all times, but each night it found a new way in. No matter what, I tried to keep it out. I couldn't withstand the horror of its relentless torments. Within a month, I had moved far away. Even now, years later, I occasionally still hear that dreaded knock in the deep of night. A reminder that no matter where I go, the midnight knocker is never too far away. It's only a matter of time before it finds me again and tries once more to let itself in.